Assalamu alaikum. I am Amina Haider, lecturer, Institute of Business Studies. I am here with yet another screencast of business research method. This is lecture number 10, and the topic that we are going to discuss today is research design. The topics that we are going to cover in our today's session includes the definition of a research design. Why is research design important? Types of research design: exploratory research, descriptive research, causal research, its elements along with its example, and in the end we are going to summarize our topic. After today's lecture, the objectives that you are going to achieve are that you would be able to understand what research design is and why it is significant, to appreciate areas of ethical sensitivity in research design, to learn how exploratory research design helps the researcher gain a feel for the problem by providing background information, suggesting hypotheses, and prioritizing research objectives, to know the fundamental question addressed by descriptive research, and you would be able to explain what is meant by causal research. So moving towards our very first topic, that is the research design definition. Research design is a set of advanced decisions that make up the master plan specifying the methods and procedure for collecting and analyzing the needed information. Now, what does that mean? In a very simple form, in a very simple words, research design is a plan, it's a blueprint that specifies the detail of the methods and procedure which are necessary for collection of data and which is necessary for analysis of data. That means it revolves around decision about the strategy that is used for collection of data and analysis of data to meet the research objective. Research designs are made or planned according to the objective you want to achieve. It's just like an architectural design of a building. You make a plan, you take decision, and you take decision that how are you going to achieve your target. Same is the case with a researcher who plans in advance about how he is going to collect the data, the method used, the methodology he is going to follow, the tools and technique he is going to use so as to achieve his objective, his research objective in a best possible way. Why research design is important? A good research design is the first rule of good research. Every research problem is unique. So research design acts as a guide to achieve the goal of the researcher, step by step, in a very systematic way, in a very calculated manner. Although every design has its own strength and weakness, and we literally cannot term any one of them as a single perfect design. Every design has their own strength and every design has their own positivity and weakness as well. Knowledge of the needed research design allows advanced planning so that project may be conducted in less time, less cost, and saving due to efficiency gain in pre-planning. Making a research design in advance saves times. Research design helps or it assists a researcher to organize his ideas in advance, whereby it will be possible for him to watch out for flaws and inadequacy. So it's essential for the smooth sailing of various research operations, thus making the research as efficient as possible. The next topic is types of research design. Research design are classified into three categories, that is exploratory research, descriptive study, and causal research. The choice of most appropriate research design depends upon how much we already know about the problem and also about the research objectives. Now moving towards exploratory research. What is exploratory research? Exploratory study is undertaken when not much is known about the situation at hand, or no information is available on how similar problem or research issues have been solved in the past. Exploratory research is conducted for a research problem when researcher has actually no past data or only few studies are available for reference. Sometimes this research is informal and unstructured. By unstructured, I mean that you conduct, for example, you conduct an interview, and when there is no specific set of predetermined questions, so that makes it unstructured. Exploratory research uses. Exploratory research is usually conducted when the researcher does not know much about the problem and needs additional information to gain background information and to define terms and to clarify problems and hypotheses. To gain background information when there is little known about the problem or when the problem has not been clearly formulated, exploratory research may be used to gain much needed background information. It is also used to, it also helps to define terms and concepts. For example, if I am conducting a research on creative ads, so I need to define the terms, I need to define these concepts, because for some people creative ad would mean ad that is novel, for other people it would be ads that are more meaningful, for some people it would mean relevancy, and for some other people it might mean good craftness. So it helps us to define terms and concepts that we are going to use in our research. And in exploratory research also helps the researcher to define the problems more precisely and to generate hypotheses for the upcoming study. For example, exploratory research on measuring bank image reveals the issue of different groups of bank customer. Banks might have retail customer, they might have commercial customers. So this information is useful in clarifying the problem of measurement of bank image, because it raises the issue for which customer group bank image should be measured. Now we will go through an example of exploratory research to explain it in a more better way. The manager of a multinational corporation is curious to know if the work ethics work ethic value of employee working in Prince Hassan Industrial City would be different from those of Americans. That city, the Prince Hassan Industrial City, is a small city, and if no information about ethical value of its worker is known, then you would only be able to conduct exploratory research for that. Similarly, if work ethical value may mean different to people in different culture, that would also mean that you are going to conduct exploratory research for that. Now we would move towards descriptive study. Descriptive study is undertaken in order to ascertain and be able to describe the characteristic of the variable of interest in a situation. Descriptive research is undertaken to describe answer to question of who, what, where, when, and how. For example, who are our customer, what brands they buy, in what quantities they buy, where they buy from, when do they shop, how do they found about your product, but not why questions, because that would mean that why question would mean that you are going to explore the phenomena. Here you only want to describe the characteristic of variables. In addition, descriptive studies are undertaken in organization to learn about and describe the characteristic of a group of employee, as for example the age, education level, job status, length of service, etc. Descriptive research is appropriate when research aim is to identify characteristic, trends, frequency, etc. For example, an investor that is considering an investment in ever-changing Beria town housing scheme, he needs to understand what the current state of market is, how it changes, how it increases or decreases, and when it changes, which time of the year it fluctuates. So before asking why, there is where descriptive research comes in. So another example is a bank manager wants to have a profile of the individual who have loan payments outstanding for 6 months and more. The profile would actually include the details of their average age, their earnings, their nature of occupation, whether they are full-time employee or part-time employee. That information might help the manager to decide right away on types of individual who should be made ineligible for loans in the future. Now we move towards the third category of research design, that is causal research. What is causal research? It may be thought of as understanding a phenomena in terms of conditional statement of the form if X then Y. Causal relationships are often determined by the use of experiments. We can call causal research as explanatory research or experimental research as well. Is the investigation of cause and effect relationship. It's important to observe variation in variable assumed to cause the change in one variable and then measure the change in other variable. For example, a company wants to study the behavior of the consumer towards the change in price of their goods. So for that they use causal research. They study the behavior of the consumer with the change in price of their goods. The nature of causal research is a bit complicated, as a researcher has to make sure that no other variable is influencing the causal relationship between two variables. For example, no matter how careful you be to get the accurate results, there can always be a psychological consideration that might be influencing the consumer. So such things need to be kept in mind for conducting a causal research. Elements of causal research: you need to consider the time series and associated changes in conducting a causal research. By time series, I mean that you might not consider if the reason occur before effect. For example, if price has changed before brand is being launched, you cannot attribute it to repricing. And by associated changes, I mean that change in variable must be systematic. For example, if company doesn't change its employee training and development practices, training and development of employee will not lead to change in customer satisfaction. Now we will go through an example to understand causal research. A marketing manager wants to know if the sale of the company will increase if he doubles the advertising dollars. Here, manager would like to know the nature of relationship between advertising and sale. If advertising is increased, sale will also go up. So in the end, we are going to summarize our today's lecture. Selecting the appropriate research design depends on a larger extent on the research objectives and how much information is already known about the problem. If very little is known, exploratory research is appropriate. Descriptive research measures any phenomena and answers the question of who, what, where, when, and how. And in the end, the causal relationship provide relationships such as if X then Y. So it helps you to learn more about cause and effect relationship. This is actually the reference book that I use for today's lecture. That's all for today. Thank you.